Let's start with today's topic, non-parametric methods. Most of the hypothesis testing procedures discussed so far, such as z-test, t-test, are all based on the assumption that the random sample selected is from normal population. We have seen that most of these tests are reasonably reliable for slight departures from normality, particularly when the sample size is large. Traditionally, these testing procedures have been known as parametric methods. These are known as parametric methods because they are dependent on parameters like mean, proportion, standard deviation. These parametric tests have used the parametric statistic of sample that comes from the population being tested. Now let's move on to non-parametric methods. These do not require the assumption that the underlying population is normal. So I repeat again. No normal population is required. These do not require the assumption that the underlying population is normal, or indeed that they have any single mathematical form, and some even apply to non-numerical data. Let's move on to the advantages. Number 1. Non-parametric tests are generally very simple to understand, quicker and easier to apply because the sample size is small. They do not require lengthy and laborious calculations, and hence there is less time consuming. It saves time. If significant results are obtained, no further work is necessary. They do not require the assumption that a population is distributed in the sample of a normal curve or another specific shape. No assumption that a population is distributed in the shape of normal curve or any shape. Therefore, non-parametric tests can be applied to all types of data. This is for both qualitative data in rank form as well as data that have been measured more precisely. I repeat, non-parametric tests can be applied to all types of data, qualitative data in rank form as well as data that have been measured more precisely. The chief advantage of non-parametric tests is their inherently greater range of applicability because of milder assumption. So, range of applicability. And the last advantage, non-parametric tests make fewer and less stringent assumptions that are more easily met than the parametric tests. So, fewer and lesser assumptions. Let's move on to the types of Non-parametric tests. 1. Sign test for paired data and one sample sign test. In these tests, positive or negative signs are substituted for quantitative values. I repeat, in these tests, positive or negative signs are substituted for qualitative values. Number 2. Mann-Whitney U-test or a rank sum test. This test is used to determine whether two independent samples have been drawn from the same population. Number 3. Kruskal-Wallis test. It is another rank sum test which generalizes the analysis of variance to enable us to dispense. I repeat, it enables us to dispense with the assumption that the population are normally distributed. Number 4. One sample run test. It is a method to determine the randomness with which the sample items have been selected. Number 5. Rank correlation test. It is a method for finding correlation coefficient when the data available is not in numerical form, but the information is sufficient to rank the data first, second, third, and so on. I repeat, it is a method for finding correlation coefficient when the data available is not in numerical form, but the information is insufficient to rank the data first, second, third, and so on. Number 6. Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. It is another method of determining the goodness of fit between an observed and theoretical probability distributions. I repeat, Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. It is another method of determining the goodness of fit between an observed and theoretical probability distributions. Number 7. Kendall test of concordance. This test is applicable to situations where we want to test the significance of more than two sets of rankings of individuals. Number 8. Median test for two independent samples. And followed by number 9 and the last one. Wilcoxon signed rank test. So let me repeat all the tests once more. The tests for non-parametric. the types. Sign test for paired data and one sample sign test. Mann-Whitney U-test or a rank sum test. Kruskal-Wallis test, one sample run test. Rank correlation test. Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. Kendall test of concordance. Median test for two independent samples. And the last one, Wilcoxon signed rank test. The rest of the video is in the second part, the non-parametric tests part 2.